All right, hello everybody. This is Michael Rodriguez, and in this video, I'm going to be telling you guys how to motivate students in the classroom, right? So if you guys are clicking on this video, you probably are about to take on your own classroom of yourself, okay? And I'm going to be sharing some ideas or some tips that I have learned in my own classroom and through this course that I've taken to try to help you guys figure it out as well, okay? So going in, you're going to have all different students. None of these students are going to be the same. None of these students are going to have the same background. They're not going to have the same home life. They're not going to have the same resources. They're all going to be motivated by different things. So all these reasons are going to play into why you need all of these different tips and tricks on how to motivate them to succeed and do well in your course. Okay, so the first problem that I see in terms of motivation is that these students, they go in, they may give full effort, let's say on an assignment. They go all out. They put all they can into this assignment. But maybe they did it wrong. Maybe they didn't understand what they were supposed to be doing, and they end up failing that assignment. Well, we live in an instant gratification generation now where if a student doesn't do well on an assignment, they could completely check out. Okay, if they go in, they think, okay, well, I put in all this effort. Why would I try again if I'm just going to fail when I put in full effort? So you're going to see students who are fully capable of doing well, but because they may have failed, it might not even be in your classroom. Maybe they failed a previous class that they put all their effort into. Now they're done. They've failed. They've put in all their effort. They think no matter what, they are going to fail even if they try. And this is an expectancy motivational problem, right? One way that we can fix this that I've seen is scaffolding your assignments. Okay, so in scaffolding, you take your assignment and try and break it up into maybe some easier to accomplish into some harder to accomplish things. And you can even do this to where, let's say you have a group project, you sort out your class into groups of high level, low level, and middle, maybe middle level students all in one group. And you can even assign those different parts to those students. That way, each student is accomplishing the same goal. They're all completing the assignment and they're all finishing their part for the group, but each one gets the rigor that they need while also seeing that gratification of, okay, I got a good grade or my hard work was worth it. Another tip that I see that I've saw in my course while also implementing it into my classroom, and this helped a whole lot, was demonstrating what to do for the students. So if you have an assignment or an activity that even if you have done it before, this can help, but especially if you're doing something for the first time. So putting in those early ways of kind of teaching things early in the semester by demonstrating what a student should do. Okay, so if you've got a big reading with a ton of questions, maybe if there's multiple documents, you could go in and show them, okay, we're going to go through document one as a class, and I'm going to show you how maybe you could break down this reading to find the answer, or how you should attack these questions. Should I read the question first, then go find the reading? Or this is the kind of answer that I'm looking for. That way you can eliminate all the questions that a student might have. If a student has no idea what they're to be expected of, they might not even try, or they might do it completely wrong and go back to what we talked about in the last slide, where they might fail, even though they gave full effort, they didn't know what they were supposed to be doing, so they fail it, they give up. Okay, so finding a way for you to show the students what they need to do, and then they can go and recreate it in their own assignment. And honestly, for my fellow teachers, this is going to save you a lot of time, okay? Because trust me, in the classroom, you could say something 100 times. These students are going to find a way to be on their phone, not pay attention, or they probably are paying attention and they just want to ask a question. Because trust me, guys, it happens. You're going to have students that it's not going to be their fault. They just love to ask questions. So they might know exactly what to do. They're coming up and saying, "Hey, do you mind telling me how to do number one again?" Even though we just did it as a class, right? So this won't eliminate that issue, but it will probably solve 50% of it. Okay, those students who weren't paying attention, or these students who usually are half tuned in, half tuned out, you demonstrating what they need to be doing can help eliminate them coming up to you again and taking time away from you, maybe helping another student, right? So this can help not just the students' motivation, but also help you in teaching them. So lastly, for this problem that we have of students kind of giving up after failing an assignment, we start to see students needing that instant gratification like we talked about. So if students don't know what they did wrong, or if students do well and don't hear that they did well, they might check out again. Okay, I try to give students feedback as soon as possible, and that's something I've learned from my course, right? You need to eliminate all this confusion that a student might have. Did I do well? Did I not do well? Am I doing this right? Am I doing this wrong? You can completely cut that out yourself if you just go in and you can give them, hey, here's some positive feedback. You did really well on this assignment. Here's what you might need to fix. And when you come at it that way, they have they're going to respond much better that way because you're going to give them what they need to do in a very quick fashion. If you let it sit for a few days or weeks, they're going to forget about the assignment. They're not going to care anymore about what they need to fix or what they need to do going forward. And one thing I've learned in my experience in the classroom is I need to look more for positives in what the students are doing, right? You can get wrapped up as a teacher in, okay, they did this wrong, they did this wrong, they didn't listen to me here, they wrote this sentence wrong, they did not read this part. But that can be all wrapped up in a very negative lens. And as a teacher, if you're only thinking in the negative, your students are going to feed off of that. They're going to receive only negative energy or negative feedback. They're not going to reciprocate that with, oh, okay, now I'm going to be very positive and look forward to this class. What I've seen helps probably more in the classroom is looking for the positives in what they did. If you yourself, if you go and do a project or you go and do something for somebody else and you put in your max effort or you put in any effort at all, you don't want to hear, oh, well, this is wrong or this is wrong or you need to do this, you need to do that. You put your effort into it. That's yours. You probably want to hear some praise for the effort you did put in. That's the same thing for our students. They want to hear, okay, well, or they want to hear the positives first. You did this right. You did this really well. This is the best thing I've seen from this class for number two, or you did this part of the presentation really well. You presented it very clearly, but here are a few things that I think you could fix to make this even better. That way, the student isn't just hearing negative, 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 what you're terrible, you're failing, you need to change everything. Now students are shifting their mind to, okay, I did do some things right. I'm not completely failing what I'm doing. I just need to shift a couple things to kind of fix these problems. So another problem that I'm facing in the classroom and I've learned to kind of attack through this course is students trying to not really do assignments if they aren't graded, right? We've turned into going back to the instant gratification generation. Students need to see that grade or they are not really motivated to do it. If you don't put steps in place to try and avoid that, you're going to see if you assign something, you will immediately be met with, is this for a grade? When is this going to be put in the grade book? What will this bring my grade to if I do it or if I don't do it? And that is a dangerous road you put yourself down because then anytime you try to give something that isn't graded, you are not going to have the student engagement that you think you're going to. And this is because they refuse to do them because why would they do it? Their grade isn't affected. They don't see the immediate response that if I don't do this, my grade goes down. Even though you and I know that you're putting this assignment in to help them master learning it so that in 2 weeks, when they take the unit test, they will fully understand this idea. Instead of just doing an assignment that gets them partly there, then you put on this reading or this lecture that will bolster their information or the knowledge that they have on this information or help them master it. They think, I already did the assignment for the grade. My grade went up. I'm good, right? I'll figure out the test later. We've got to combat this and find ways to help them understand that mastering learning a topic is also very important in the classroom. And that is going to help their grades in the long run as well if they fully understand it. So one of the first ways I combat this is a strategy by a man that we learned from in class named Brett Jones. And what he says is that you need to get students creating goals for themselves at the beginning of each unit. So if I'm starting unit one, instead of just going in and only students focusing on their grades, how they did, what I'm going to do is I'll go in, I'll have them write down, I'll give them the standards for this unit and have them write down what standards they want to master. Maybe if you're in world history, I want to be able to explain the differences from Mesopotamia and Egypt in their early ancient river valley civilizations on their politics and their economy, right? And you can put that goal in place so that regardless of what they get on a quiz, a test, an assignment, they can see at the end of the unit, well, can I explain that? Do I understand that goal that I set? And if they do, that starts to change things in their mind. They start to think, well, okay, I'm starting to master this information. You can, maybe I'm not a great test taker and I can go do test corrections for that, but you are learning the information, which is helping them out in the long run and will eventually lead to that helping them on those tests. Another strategy that I've learned in this class, I've seen in the classroom, I've used it myself and it's worked, and you've also probably learned it yourself if you're an aspiring teacher in your many classes in college on how to teach, is that you need to try and connect this class or whatever you're teaching with the students. Now, this can be difficult for different subjects, right? World history, it might be difficult to connect with students when you're talking about ancient civilizations all the way back hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago. But wherever you can find a way to connect the students, maybe putting similar cultural phenomenons in your math problems, using students' names in your math problems, reading in language arts about current issues or just things that involve them today, right? Reading about different events that they may have experienced themselves. This can help engage students way more, even if it's not for a grade, because now it's about them. Now we're learning about something that they've experienced. Now we're learning about something that they can relate to, right? And if you can relate to them on a personal level, now they're more interested. Okay, if you're just talking about whatever all semester and they don't really feel like they can connect to this or they've experienced this, why would they think it matters? Because in their minds, they've never experienced it, so this clearly isn't going to affect me for the rest of my life. So you need to find a way to try and invest in their daily lives. And that comes with having a great relationship with your students and being able to understand what actually will connect with them, right? And so that's going to also lead to another way for them to connect, engage to your learning. My last strategy, that's going to be having students learn something through a lecture or reading and then have them prepare to teach that to another group of students. So you may give out a reading that's not a grade, but you'll task them with teaching other students in a group about that reading, right? So it might not be for a grade for them to do this, but now you at least add the pressure of them having to do it in front of their peers. So now they're going to want to actually do well. If they kind of don't put in as much effort, and their peers do in their group, it's going to show. And then they may feel like, well, now everyone else did a lot better than me. This kind of, I didn't really like that. I want to do better next time. So now you're finding a way to get students to actually lock in and work harder on their learning, even if it's not a grade, but also this is going to help those other group mates. Instead of hearing your voice talk all day long, you're the only voice they hear for the entire class period, for an entire semester, or an entire year. Well, now they're hearing voices outside of it that also have different perspectives on things, that also speak their language. Whatever terms or terminology that generation uses, they will probably end up using that in this presentation as well, allowing for them, again, going back to that last strategy, the students are now much easier being able to connect to their peers while teaching this topic. And that way, not only are the student presenting the information learning a lot more, but those learning from the presenter are learning a whole lot more. So in conclusion, there's so many strategies that we can use. Not all of them are going to work for every student, but there is probably a strategy out there that will work for every single student. You've just got to find it. And this is just this first step, right? This video, you using whatever I've given you here. This is not going to be the end all be all. Not all these strategies are going to work for Jim Bob or Jimmy, but there will be a strategy for them somewhere out there, and you just got to keep looking. So I hope this helped. Right, if you want to drop a like, subscribe to my YouTube channel for more content like this, that would be awesome. If you want to comment any strategies that maybe you learned here that have helped you, or any strategies that you know that I didn't talk about that maybe you can drop in the comment section for other teachers to hear and learn from as we all continue to expand and get better at our craft. Thank you guys.